Things are recording now. So I guess we'll get started by showing the video of John speaking a bit about Repair Cafe. So I'll share that on my screen and we'll get started with that.
John Wackman, co-author with Elizabeth of Repair Revolution, which is about community initiatives that are socially vibrant, fast-growing platforms for building awareness about the challenges that are facing our planet. It used to be that every town had its repair shops, and you knew where to take things to be repaired. That knowledge was close at hand. But in a throwaway society, in fact, things are not made to last. They are made to break. And the right to repair movement challenges the companies that have designed things that will not last. In fact, they have found ways to make it difficult or more expensive or even impossible for you to fix the things that you own. The good news is that the Federal Trade Commission is solidly on our side. And right to repair legislation is in front of the legislatures of at least 25 states. And the basic principle is, if you can't repair it, you don't own it. Well, all of us who are doing this, be it repair cafes or repair hubs or fix-it clinics or fixers collectives, repair circles, we all issue the same invitation. And that is, bring a beloved but broken item to be repaired for free by an expert who is also your neighbor. And so the repair categories that we offer, the cores are mechanical, electrical. The most common items we see are lamps, hands down, electronic and digital, clothing and textiles, very important. Then there's jewelry, very popular. Things made of wood, that's my skill set. Toys, dolls, and stuffed animals, because you want families to come. You want to see the kids there. But here's the thing, that the repair categories that you are able to offer are a function of who in your community has those skills and who is willing to bring them forward and share them with their neighbors. Well, as soon as you see our book, you will understand that it is about much more than fixing stuff. It really is about creating social bonds and building community in extraordinary ways. It connects us to our sense of individual and social well-being. And you might say, oh, what a nice thing to fix things for other people. And it is a nice thing. But it is really much more than that. And until you go to a repair event and see and feel the generosity and the creativity and the sense of purpose in the room, you won't really know what this is about. And our book opens that door for you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for sharing that.
Yeah, and thank you to Holly for pointing that my way. And I know that Elizabeth was in that video as well. Yeah, so we wanted to make a space for coaches and other people involved with repair cafes to share their experiences with the cafes and working with John. And yeah, so we'll go down the list, and Elizabeth was going to start by sharing her thoughts.
Well, I got to know John when I started a repair cafe in Warwick, New York, and it was the first one in my county. So there wasn't anyone who knew more than John about how do you actually get this off the ground when no one had ever heard of it in my county. So John and I spent a lot of time on the phone, and then one day he said to me, you know, this is all going to work out. And he said, he said, I get it. He said, you're a member of a local sustainability organization, Sustainable Warwick, and it really bugs you to see the amount of useful goods kicked to the curb every spring for the village bulk trash pickup. And he said, and you think you're going to keep things out of the landfill, and you will. He said, but the thing you don't yet know is you're building community. And I thought, what exactly does that mean? And he said, you'll know it when you see it. The very first repair cafe, people who had never known each other came in carrying the oddest assortment of things, and you would hear laughter. You'd hear people head to head over a table with their hands touching each other saying, well, that just doesn't work. And I unplugged it and I put this on and it just doesn't work. And then somebody else is saying, it's okay, I think we got this. And at the end of one of the cafes months later, I asked a 13-year-old boy named Ethan Veal, who volunteered for us, to get community service hours so he could get qualified for confirmation at his Catholic church. And I said, so Ethan, you know, what do you think about this? And I want to read you what he said. It's nice to know that with the news saying so many sad and depressing stories, there's a place where there are people who are willing to help you, no matter who you are, for no other reason than to help you in the best way possible. It gives me hope. And I put that story in an email that I would send to John and to all of our repair coaches and volunteers at the end of every repair cafe, because I wanted them to know how much I valued their contributions. And then one day out of the blue, John called me up and said, you know, I've had this contract to write a book, and you know those reports that you send me after every repair cafe? I want you to tell those stories for me. This is what the book needs, the community connection. And also to share after I'd been doing it and starting it the hard way, John and I will collaborate about what would we wish someone had told us when it was time to start. And I have to say that being invited to write a book like that changed my life, because I was contacting people all across the country. And Ray, I would never have known you, Ray Pfau, in Massachusetts, if it hadn't been for the opportunity to contribute to the book. So I can't wait until the pandemic allows me to go out and hit the road and meet all those people who made contributions to Repair Revolution book and who want to tell me another story about how much John meant to them. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. That's so lovely. Yeah. Yeah, and I think Ray said that he was going next to share.
Okay. So my name is Ray Pfau, and I live in Bolton, Massachusetts. And first of all, I want to just say what a great video of John. He really captures it all about what repair cafes are about. And he was a wonderful person. I miss him dearly. And we both started on this journey of repair cafes back in 2013. He in the Hudson Valley and me in central Massachusetts. And after we got started, we kind of went along on our own and each trying to spread the word. And he did a fantastic job in the Hudson Valley. I did my part, but not quite as much in Massachusetts. And it ended up that we met because I met Kimiko Link. I'm not sure I'm getting her first name right, but anyway, she was at a conference in Boston in the fall of 2016, and I did a talk there, and she came up afterwards and said, there's this guy, John Wackman, and he's doing similar stuff to what you're doing, so you really need to meet him. So I sent off an email, and we started corresponding by email. And the funny thing, thinking of the pandemic and everybody doing things, without in-person contact, we only actually met in person twice. But so we went several years, and we exchanged email, we talked on the phone, we talked about different ideas and how we could do things. And eventually in the summer of 2018, he and Holly were coming to East Hampton, which is about an hour from where we live, and going to a wedding. So we arranged to meet and spent several hours together. And we included a stop for ice cream at a homemade ice cream stop, because both of us are ice cream, freaks, or people who really love ice cream. So that was a wonderful day, and Holly was there, and also my wife, Catherine. And then we started working with Elizabeth and John on the book. And I mean, I contributed a little, and I also was often sending emails around to people on my interest list. And I think we got quite a bit of feedback from that. So I think that with the book. And then in February of 2019, we arranged to visit a display that was going on repair of textiles at Rhode Island School of Design. So all the four of us and also Elizabeth and Roger were there, and we spent time at the museum, and then we went out to eat afterwards, and just had a wonderful day. And after that continued our email exchanges, phone calls, and just kept things going. And I want to just read a few adjectives that I think definitely apply to John: caring, inquisitive, supportive, hardworking, always having fun, bringing out the best in people, a super organizer. And the other thing I will mention, one thing we were talking about quite a bit before he passed away was to get a US-wide organizers meeting together. And unfortunately, it didn't happen before he passed away, but some of us got motivated, Melissa and Elizabeth and Don Fick, who's not on the call, and I, to get that going. So we had the first meeting in February, and the second meeting was just about a week ago.
Mhm.
And so that is a really nice outgrowth of John's work, and we will hopefully carry that on going forward. So thank you a lot for letting me speak, and I'll let somebody else go.
Thank you.
Awesome. Fingers crossed on the meeting. I think Don was.
I think I'm next, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yes, yes. There you are. Yeah. I didn't see
Yeah.
you in. Welcome back. Love to hear from you.
Yeah, so I'm Don Grice, and I'm in New Paltz. And when I was getting ready to retire, I wanted to find a way to join the immediate community. And a friend of mine suggested, well, what about the Repair Cafe? And I said, well, what is a Repair Cafe? So I got a hold of John, and within 2 weeks, I was a member of 4 Repair Cafes. So I got to be a member of 4 different communities, and it's really, I mean, the communities really hang together. Every one of them is different. The skill set in everyone is different, but the feeling in the room is the same, right? And it's just phenomenal. And there is an emphasis on reuse culture. And as John said, the right to repair and all of that's very important. Using the coaches to teach people how to repair things, getting people in the mood of repairing their own things, critical to all this. But as John said, I think for me, the thing is, we also repair the community. And you can feel it in the room. Everybody just hangs together. A lot of the times, and it's been described, some of these projects, you need more than one skill set. It always feels to me like a barn raising. You get everybody together and we all push and pull, and the barn comes up. And for me, that's the thing, right? And John was an inspiration to everybody for all of this, especially at the personal level. He would always post stories. He would take pictures and post stories about things. And he would come over and ask, so what was repaired? But what did it mean to you, right? And my specialty turned out to be repairing photographs. So when John would come over, he would go, so what was happening in that picture? Who were those people? And what did they mean to you? I mean, it wasn't so much about the mechanics of any of this. It was about, so what's going on in your life? And that was just John. So the Repair Cafes are a great way to know your community, to learn to meet other coaches, to meet people that just come in. We have people that come in just to socialize. They don't even have a broken thing, except maybe a broken heart, right? And so they all come in and everybody gets repaired. It's a fantastic organization.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think someone said before we started recording the call that, and Holly pointed out that the New Paltz Repair Cafe has a massage therapist too, because people need repairing too.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really lovely to hear about the human element of all that. Thank you. I believe Gay and Dimitri are up next in our little rotation.
Okay, yep. John inspired my husband Dimitri and I to start a repair cafe over 5 years ago in Kingston. And from the beginning, the cafe sparked joy in everyone who participated, be they coach or customer. I can remember how the coach's eyes would sparkle when an interesting problem came through the door. I can remember how 5 middle-aged men crawled all over a recalcitrant vacuum cleaner at one point. And I remember also how a coach and a customer spent literally 4 hours inside with the insides of a blender. And they were totally isolated in their own world, trying to make it work. And one of our first customers was a local woman, a woman from just around the neighborhood, around the corner, who brought in an old doll. And I can remember when the person who was sewing the dress on the doll put the dress back on the doll, and she just clapped her hands with joy to see how this doll had been reborn. So it was truly, as everybody said, a neighborhood community event with all sorts of connections and just meeting people and talking to people. It's enriched our lives enormously, and but we do miss John very much.
Yes, it was wonderful to work with him, and he helped us set it up in the beginning, and suggested that we get in touch with the Repair Cafe organization and get their paperwork, and we started that way. And it went very well until the pandemic, unfortunately. I hope it will come back.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Yeah, I thank you for sharing. Patrick, would you like to speak next?
Sure. I didn't put too much together because I thought we were trying to have a condensed thing. So I just wrote a couple of quick sentences, actually, which I thought summed up my experience with it. One is about John, who, thanks. Well, what I wrote was, John took the time to get to know people personally. He cared about the community in a way that not many people do, and his involvement was unique from so many levels. Is that he cared a lot about the coaches, he cared a lot about the customers, he cared a lot about the repair itself, and as much as he was the organizer, he also really loved to dive into a little woodworking project or something and just get lost in that, because it was the fun part of the whole thing that brought us all together, fixing something and seeing the happiness on someone's face. And it was just such a cool thing to see him not only organize the whole thing, but just do what us soldiers in the trenches were doing too, so I always appreciated that. And I just wrote, the Repair Cafe has been a way for all of us to give back to our communities and see people really love what can happen if everybody pitches in and does their part to help people save something from the landfill. It just meant so much to me.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you for sharing what you can. Yeah. Melissa, you're next on our.
All right then. I've been trying to remember how I met John, and I can't. Most people have an I met John story, but it's like I've always known him. He was on our board around 2014 when he had come to the Hudson Valley. I was looking for someone to do to participate in a fundraiser called the Climate Ride, riding your bike from someplace in Maine across to like Wisconsin. And John said, okay. And he did it and was, received in the arms of his son, Nathan, and Nathan's wife in Chicago, with all kinds of triumphant pictures. And that was like his, getting to know sustainable Hudson Valley. He and I were jointly discovering the Solarize program, which we brought to the region. And he managed to shift from board to staff to actually run that campaign for 3 years, and was an amazing community organizer there too. Everything from designing logos to singing in, solar barbershop quartets, to staging the most amazing photographs. And I think of him as a Renaissance man. I knew him through our work. He talked about his book group. He used his connection to the Rosendale Cafe to do fundraisers for us. I would be dropping off paperwork at his house and he would offer me a Klondike bar. He was one of our senior fellows, half a dozen people toward the end of their careers who were doing amazing creative projects. And we were able to nurture the Repair Revolution book at the point when it was written, but he was just figuring out the publication strategy with Elizabeth. So just a tremendous amount of richness. And I think it's all summed up in an ethic that one of our other senior fellows, Andy Wilner, wrote up in a piece called Repairing the Hudson Valley. And it's about the sentiment of repair and the hands-on, patient, creative way of, not trying to drive, visionary policy change or, not thinking in utopian fantasy terms, but just making the world better a little bit at a time in a crafty way by translating the vision of repair into everything we do. So I will say Sustainable Hudson Valley is continuing to support all the repair cafes in the region, and they are feeling their ways forward post-pandemic. And there are amazing people, and we're all channeling John's energy.
Amazing. Right. Yeah. No, it's amazing to hear the impact that he had and the amount of projects that are still continuing. It's so lovely. We also had Barbara Lane was unfortunately not able to join us this evening. She has some technical difficulties, but she sent her thoughts via email. So I'm just going to read them before we start wrapping up. Barbara writes, I met John at one of the New Paltz Earth Day fairs. He had set up a table sort of in the corner, but had some colorful display that enticed me to take a walk over to see what he was offering. The idea of a repair cafe was fairly new, but as he talked, the idea seemed like such a wonderful idea, and certainly something that our town would be able to embrace. John asked me if I was interested, and I really couldn't think of a way to get involved. The more we talked about what I had done before I retired, the idea of repairing jewelry was discussed, and before I knew it, I was signed up to be a repair coach when John could find a venue somewhere in New Paltz. I fondly remember the first meeting of the Repair Cafe that was held in the basement of the Methodist Church. There was a palpable undercurrent of excitement brewing as we all eagerly awaited the first customers. The time flew by, and by the time it was over for the day, I had done many repairs and met some wonderful people, all who were immensely grateful to have their treasured pieces restored. In the 6 years that I participated, often with my friend Renee, who is also a jewelry coach, I met so many interesting people and was always sad when the time ended. Watching John at the helm of this phenomenal endeavor was nothing short of amazing. John was the glue that held us all together, connecting coaches with customers, feeding us, encouraging us, praising us, making us all feel that we were all a valuable part of the New Paltz Repair Cafe. Finding my way to a table at the Earth Day Fair was a life-changing event for me. I'm excited to get back to working at the Repair Cafe, but it will surely be bittersweet without John.
Yes, so the Repair Cafe Pine Bush is an amazing event. We've only gotten to do a couple of them because unfortunately we had our first one in February last year and then COVID hit. So we did do another one. We did an outdoor repair cafe in October in conjunction with the Town of Crawford's First Friday event. And we're hoping to do another one either in June or July coming up. So that will be our third one. And there's Jeff. Jeff just walked in, and Jeff is my partner in crime with the Repair Cafe. He helps me run that. So so happy to have it, and what an amazing influence John was on me for believing in me so I could start it. So just an incredible person.
Yeah, So just as we're wrapping up this conversation, to acknowledge that, like, the impact that John had was like immeasurable. But we did want to share some information about the repair cafes as they continue on despite the pandemic. Yes, so the New Paltz Repair Cafe of the Ulster County, that's John on the left and Patrick on the right. There are going to be some online events and some open air repair cafe events that we're trying to, that repair cafe of the area is trying to continue despite COVID. And more information can be found at the websites listed there, and as other people mentioned too, John and Elizabeth's book on the subject is yes, Holly's feeding me information. The Repair Revolution book that they wrote together is an incredible resource as well.